Hello and welcome back to the 2023 FVC Summer Series, the final round of this championship, as well as the final round for FVC competition on F122. 9 drivers are currently with us. We're going to be waiting one more, as the first car to come out is looking to be one of the Mercedes of Thunderbird. Conditions are looking to be very overcast for qualifying. Possibility of rain, if I had to take a guess. However, I am not entirely sure what the conditions are going to be. Taking a look over at chat, is Azzy there? Not this week. Azzy, I'm pretty sure, is over with the driver stream of Apex, if you're wanting to listen out for her. However, she is not with me in the commentary box this week and is not going to be on track, as she has retired formally from the FVC competition. Interesting to note is that Carbon coming out onto the intermediate tyre for qualifying might be a bit of a running joke heading from the final, or the previous round, as I have a look over to Rosenquist. Rain is unlikely. Thank you for the notification there. Can't find any broadcast or any system to tell myself. I usually rely on someone in the commentary stream to be able to tell me. One thing to note about the Circuit of the Americas is one of the more technical turns, or one of the more technical tracks on the calendar. 20 corners over the entirety of it, and we see here the triple or even quadruple apex corner of between 16 and 18. Very reminiscent of Turkey Turn 8, if anyone remembers that track from many years ago. Went back to it a couple of times in real life over the previous year. Let's jump on board with Thunderbird to have a look at their first flying lap. Long run, the line is very close to the corner. However, it's a long run to turn 1, and it is a massive climb to a very steep hill. Then it's a hard brake and get it cut right in. You've got a huge amount of space here. You want to run it out wide all the way to the edge, like the 3 yellow flag from one of the McLarens. Thankfully getting cleared away. Then once you're through it, it is very high speed chicanes, somewhat reminiscent of the same ones at Silverstone. Thunderbird getting very aggressive and running out of track room, jumping off of him. Let's over to D765 and the other Mercedes, who is in a similar section of the track. Heading through the chicanes, slowing all the way, and then it is another climb up a bit of a hill. Get it tucked in nicely. That's your end of the first sector. Heading to the second, then you head down again. Fast left-hander before another hairpin. It's a very tight one again. Still a lot of track room, but you've got to be careful. There's going to be a lot of dives here, I have a feeling. You've got to get your acceleration good. You're going to lose time all the way down the straight. Mercedes teammates working together. Have a little bit of a slipstream for D75 down the straight. DRS wide open all the way down. And the speed trap as well is at the end of this straight. Thunderbird pulling out to give the better corner and grip to D765, heading into the final sector. Your final 90-degree left-hander corner. Purple middle sector there for the Mercedes driver. Not surprised, it's the only one still going on a flying lap at this point. But the furthest ahead on a flying lap as the previous Mercedes came into bottom. Then this quadruple apex corner, got to get it in tight and then run a little bit wide for getting it tucked back in over to the right-hand side. And there's another hard braking into the left-hand corner of turns 19 and 20. You've got to be careful not to run out too wide, otherwise you will invalidate your lap very easily. Sager's not cutting in too early for the final corner before another DRS zone running up to the line. It's a 1:34.147 to set the pace for Mercedes. Next car to come up to the line and set a lap time is going to be the McLaren of Carbon on the intermediate compound, getting very wobbly around the multi-apex corner there, keeping it going in a straight line, somehow keeping it a valid lap as well. I'm feeling it's not going to be a very fast one, considering it's likely how the entire lap went for Carbon. Not able to get as much grip off of the corners, because that is a wet compound tyre, and indeed a 1:49.623 for the McLaren driver. Up next is going to be the Haas of Apex, setting a 1:35.239, and just before him is going to be the Aston Martin of Pixels with a 1:36.890. All of these drivers today have a good chance, possibly their best chance of a podium over the entire season. The front runners that are usually here, well, they're not here, and there's a lot less people to come their way. As long as you finish, you're guaranteed to score points as it is. Scarly42 joins the session to make the 10th driver 12 minutes and 40 seconds remaining for her to set a lap. Up next to come over the line is looking to be the second McLaren of Harrison M, as we just went over to a 136.164. Rounding the final corner, making sure not to dip that final few wheels over into 135.669 for Harrison M. And Thunderbird immediately up to the top with a 133.947. Mercedes currently looking at the front row. Very valiant effort from them. It's a big gap to the car behind them. Of course, however, we still have 3 more drivers still yet to set a lap. Welcome on in, Dorado, to the live chat as one of them went over the line. It's going to be VNT Rosenquist, a 136.944 for them. While we wait for a bit more to heat up, let's take a look at the previous pole positions here at the Circuit of the Americas. Season 5 went to the Ferrari driver of HP8. Currently, neither Ferrari is here on the grid as it is, as a spin for Apex heading round the multi-Apex run. A bit of a reset to track there, unsure if that was going to be automatic or on his own. Next car start flying, that's going to be Broad, and let's jump on board with him for the Red Bull driver, see how he does. Hard braking ever so slightly off the apex of the first corner. I've not driven this track myself yet, so I'm not sure what the best line is through any of this sector, and that's why I'm up here in the commentary box. I'm not the greatest driver, and I'd much prefer to be here out of the more stressful environment. Purple first sector for the Red Bull driver, coming up against one of the McLarens who is spanned sideways off the track. Hopefully didn't cause any interference with him. Nicely through the first corners through this middle sector. Again, it's another hard braking zone into another hairpin corner. This time, Broden gets on the apex well, runs it out wide, perfectly keeps it off the curb. Then another DRS zone all the way up to the final corner. Purple middle sector for the Red Bull driver. Now it's heading into the more technical section. You've got to have a decent bit of downforce here. Best thing to make some of these corners. It's going to be very hard on the tyres. If you get the line wrong, you're going to be hemorrhaging time all the way through it. Of course, don't want to cut it in too much, otherwise you will invalidate your lap. Same for running out. Cut in nicely. A little bit delayed in the turn in, possibly a little bit of a lock up there for Broden as he tried to get the car swung in for turn 19, then through turn 20. Accelerating hard out, coming up over the line. It's going to be a 134.285. Not a fastest lap, was a very valiant effort, taking the purple first and second sectors. Up next is going to be the McLaren of Carvin heading into pit lane, possibly to get off those intermediate tyres and be able to work competitive. Also joining us in the lobby is Blayapa 5169 for Alfa Romeo. Make a quick note for myself of something else happening in this race that is possible. So over to the Alpine of Scarlett, currently setting their first flying lap. Just under 9 minutes remaining in qualifying. Yellow in sector 2 and 3, possibly for one of the Red Bulls, it looks like, off Brosen. Going into a little bit of problem. Bringing it in nicely to the inside of the corner for Scarlett. A little bit wide, the multi-apex corner, but that could be the line. We've seen a number of drivers doing that already. Then to the final corners. Nicely through 19, heading into pit lane now, boarding that lap. clearly not in favour for Scarlet. Seeing the Alfa Romeo of Blah off the track, Thunderbird on an invalidated lap, as is D765, jumping around to find anyone. It's purple first sector for Harrison M on the soft compound tires. Let's jump on board with him. Nicely open grip, DRS wide open down the main straight of this track. Not the start-finish straight, but it is the longest one on the circuit. And the speed trap is at the end of it, 150 meter board braking just beyond it. Get yourself nicely set up for Sector 3. It's not a purple middle sector for the McLaren driver, hoping he's still running on the highs of his first sector. Got a number of cars behind him, and that is exactly where he wants to be. He doesn't want any car in front of him for this final sector. Try and get as much of a advantage as possible. SC219 runs it out perfectly over the edge and good through the final corner 20, heading over the line. It's going to be a 1:35.040 for the McLaren driver, putting him into 4th place provisionally. Currently, as it stands, nobody can challenge up at the top 3. There's a 0.8 of a second gap, close to 0.7 actually, between 3rd and 4th, and the ones over the top seem to be completely unchallenged. Still 2 drivers yet to settle out. They only got 6 minutes to do so. Time is slowly ticking down for the final qualifying on F1 22. Also seeing a report from the driver's channel saying that the Mercedes of D765 invalidated a lap that was over 10 or over 0.8 of a second up at the last corner. That is definitely going to sting. Another driver joins us in the race. Sam Wicker, 4067 for Williams. Only 4 teams so far with both their driver lineups being of Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine and Alfa Romeo. On board with Scarlett, have a look at her first proper full attempt at a flying lap. Hooks it in nicely, ever so slightly off the apex, but that could be the play through at the first corner then. First sector is very high speed, slight bit of a downshift into the first again, another one into the second, then you've just got to hold it round, hope you don't wash out. The better entry you get, all these, the faster entry speed you can carry and the better exit you'll get. However, you cannot carry too much speed into them, you'll just wash out and you'll be invalidating yourself, possibly even just losing time constantly. Of course, you got to be careful of your tyres, you wear them out too much, you can overheat them very easily through that sector and that will just disadvantage you for the rest of the lap. Nice do through the hairpin, that Mercedes we can just see in the mirrors very close behind. DRS is not open for Scarlett, as far as I can see. They're open very late in the straight. Going to be losing a bit of time for the Alpine driver there, hard braking into the exit of the second sector. Very aggressive on the throttle, but it just grips up nicely then, heading through the final corner. Or the first corner, sorry, of the middle sector. Back-to-back low-speed hairpins. Could possibly see a couple of dives there, but then all to 2 seconds. But there he is, the heated tyres spinning for Scarlett. It's too much energy put through them earlier in the lap, causes no grip for the multi-apex corner at the end of the circuit. Got to be careful as well for the race. Just knocking over the pit lane bollard, getting very aggressive into pit lane, possibly even nearly spinning it round for the game auto resets her. Too aggressive early in the lap, and you're just going to compromise yourself too much further through. And the gap at the top is still completely unchallenged. Thunderbird, D765 and Broughton just running away with it as it is. 33.947, the only driver to be in the 33s as it stands. There's still 2 minutes 20 seconds to qualifying now and still 3 drivers yet to set a lap. Going over to the Alfa Romeo fly up as he approaches the end of his first proper flying lap. Coming around the final corner, the Alfa Romeo driver has been flying all through the season, but just a couple of mistakes has detrimented a little bit over the line. It's only going to be a 6th place, so 135.410. That's definitely not where he's going to be wanting to be. And he knows he can definitely challenge up at the top more. The Alpine of Scarlett rolling out of pit lane, only going to have really 1 attempt. That's going to be hard pushing to get to the line. Might be running out of tyre and energy by that point. As D765 goes to the top of 133.267, yet again extending another gap up to the top of the field. And up to the Williams of Sam Baker as he continues on trying to set another lap. It's going to be his only attempt if he can't get back to the line. He needs to have this one be completely nailed, and he invalidates it. He's going to have to make it to the line in the next minute and 10 seconds if he wants to have another shot at it, and it's going to be close. You might even be out of tyres and energy by that point. Not looking good for the Williams driver. Also, someone that needs to get to the line quick within the next minute is going to be the Alpine of Scarlett. If she wants to make a lap, which she definitely can, challenge up at the top, but needs to not take too much out of it in the first sector and even on this outlap. Heading down to the McLaren of Carbon. B7 is a little bit off form for how Carbon has shown some of his higher paces in previous rounds, especially since Canada, where he came back to the F1 competition of the FVC. 20 seconds remaining on the clock to get to the line. It's going to be running wide again for Carbon. Thankfully doesn't invalidate this lap or next. Starting his next attempt. Number of yellow flags coming up from the sector over sectors 1, 2 and 3. Final car mid over the line is going to be that William of Sam Baker. That means Rosberg is going to be the first to finish up their lap. Goes up to 8th place at 135.788. Then the Mercedes of Thunderbird is not going to be next. It's going to be D765 heading into pit lane as Apex retires from the session. As does Carbon. And a number of drivers off track. I'm unsure of what's going on here. Jump over to a driver on their lap, finishing up their one and done shot. It's going to be Charlie 42 that we ride along board with, heading down into the second sector, the hairpin heading onto the straight. 2 cars ahead on the left hand side is going to be Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo off Pixels and Blah. Hard braking gets it nicely in. I haven't seen out this earlier bit of the lap section, however I'm just going to be hoping that she didn't overheat her tyres too much. It was around this section just in a couple of corners time where she dropped it on her previous attempt. She needs to get it done, and perfectly this time. It's her final attempt to set a lap. Already getting a bit too slippery. That rear tyre is just screaming out for grip. Getting around the multi-apex corner. Steady so far. Rear end just staying in place this time. Scarlett's never get around now to the final few corners. This is everything where it matters. You've got to not invalidate it. Don't run too wide. But also don't cut it in too early. Scarlett hits it perfectly through 19 and 20. A little bit too much grip power, and it's a 134.564 up into 5th place. Up next is going to be the Williams of Sam Baker sitting a 136.725. Final 2 cars is going to be Pixels and Blah. However, they're not going to be able to finish up as already invalidated. Celebrations for the end of the final qualifying as we watch the Aston Martin of Pixels donating around at the final few corners as the session runs down. And that marks the end of qualifying on F1 22. Don't go anywhere, the final race for the FVC on this game will come very, very soon. Your grid rundown, 4th race. On pole position, D765 for Mercedes, and alongside it's going to be teammate Thunderbird, a front row lockout for the Mercedes team. 133.267 and 133.780 for them respectively. Half a second separates them, and another half second back is the Red Bull of JL Broughton taking up 3rd place. 4th goes to the McLaren of Harrison M. 5th to Scarlet 42, and 6th goes to the Apex Miata. 7th place is the Alfa Romeo of Bluff, and alongside it's going to be Carbon in the McLaren. Alpine takes 9th place with VNT Rosenquist, and 10th also goes to Alfa Romeo with Weepy Rack 9041. 11th place is going towards the Aston Martin of Pixels, and 12th on the grid is Simon Baker 4060. Welcome back to the 2023 FVC Summer Series, as my themes are not working yet again. We're back from the final qualifying session of the FVC Summer Series for this year. D765 took pole position, and alongside it's going to be teammate of Thunderbird. Mercedes front row lockout, and they're going to be trying their best to get to 1,000 points total. They only need 10 to make it, and as they currently stand, it is looking very likely for them. Lining up in 3rd place is going to be the Red Bull of JL Broughton, and in 4th place alongside is going to be the McLaren of Harrison M, who didn't get the greatest start off the line there for the formation lap. However, it does not matter as it stands. 5th place goes to Scarly 42, currently leading in 2nd place in the championship. 1st place is already locked out, as the championship has already been won a couple of rounds ago by Azzy. However, the battle for 2nd is still raging on in both drivers and constructors. 6th place goes to Apex for the Haas team, and 7th heads to Laya 5169 for Alfa Romeo. 8th place is Carbon lining up alongside the Alfa Romeo, and then 9th heads to Alpine with VNT Rosenquist. The final spot in the grid then is heading towards Weekly Bag 9041, and 11th goes to Pixels. The last race that we're going to be hosting on this game. Not many drivers are with us, however there is a number of things still on the cards left to go. Alpine are still vying for that 2nd place in the Alpine still vying for 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes need to outscore Alpine by 6 points if they want to take P2. And it is looking to be dry the entire way through as well. Getting a number of issues popping up on my end. If anything happens for the stream, please let me know as soon as possible. Charlotte's also going to be trying to charge her best up the grid, considering if she wins today's race, she will be the first driver to hit 10 in the league era. It's going to be a big ask from 5th on the grid, as well as the dominant forces up front here, as we see the 12th place Williams of Salmon Baker currently sitting on the grid for an unknown reason of disqualification. Cars are lined up. The 5 red lights are all on. For the final time, it's lights out and away we go. 2 drivers immediately getting a jump start penalty. One of them being Scarlett, who's already up in the way to 2nd, onto 1st now, but that is going to be a detrimental start to the race. Blah also getting a jump start. A huge runaway from the Alpine driver, however, just too eager on that starting position. Possibly a bit of a glitch there heading into the lobby, but running away off at the front. Nothing really happening just behind, only 12 cars today. So it's very unlikely that incidents do occur. Very wide there for one of the Alfa Romeos. As said, Alfa Romeo is getting swamped, jumping down further the grid. They're all very close together. Very wobbly from the Mercedes of Thunderbird, who's getting challenged there from the Haas of Apex up at the front. With these two are going to be going side by side into the hairpin. On the inside goes Simon Baker, around the outside is going to be Blah. Which one of them can make it? Looks to be getting ahead is the Alfa Romeo quite easily. You have the Alfa Romeo of Weep here. It's going to be right up there. Going to have the slipstream all the way down the straight though, as well as the better exit grip for the Williams. Or also here comes Pixels, having looked on the inside. Not going to be close enough. These two are still going to be side by side heading into the 3rd sector. Law fighting his way around the outside. The medium compact tire somehow out gripping those softs on the Williams. And this group is ever so slightly falling down as Weepier has a spin around the multi-apex corner and falls out of the position. Heading into pit lane immediately is going to be Scarlet to take that drive through. That's going to promote D75 back into the lead of the race, as well as Thunderbird up into second again. And Carbon's got a huge run up to third place, as is Apex up into fourth and Harrison into fifth. Not been a good start for the Alpine team, as also into pit lane goes the Alfa Romeo of Blah. The stop strategy is a one stop on lap 12 to 16, or a two stop if you start on the soft compounds between 5 and 8 and 16 and 21. As it stands, we'll take a look over at the tyre graphic detail, and most of the drivers today batting to start on the medium compounds and a couple on the hard. So he's taking penalty for multiple warnings, heading to the Alpha of Weepier. It's not been a great start for Alpha, and already retiring from the session at the S's. And the virtual safety car is deployed for that incident. Marshall should be able to get that cleared up right and quickly, and we shouldn't be under this virtual safety car for too long. Doesn't do anything to bunch up the field, it just neutralizes the race for a minute. While we're under this virtual safety car, let's take a look at our previous winners around this circuit. Season 5 went to HP8, and the 2022 Summer Series went to the current leader of D765. Before that, Alfa Romeo took it in Season 3 with LCRF1 win. All the way back in Season 2, it was FE Pixels taking the win at the the Austin circuit. Shouldn't be too long before we get back to green flag racing. That car has been cleared away by the marshals. Under virtual safety car, it's going to be very close up at the front. These drivers want to make sure they're under the delta as it comes back, otherwise they're going to be losing out to another drive-through penalty. Into pit lane goes the Williams of Salmon. Taking a tyre change onto the medium compound goes the Williams driver. As Rosenquist a drive-through penalty for speeding on the virtual safety car as we get back to green flag racing. Mercedes drivers look to get a decent run away up at the front. Hard compound tyre somehow paying favours to them, but here comes Carbon, got the DRS wide open on Thunderbird. That McLaren also running a higher speed set up by the looks of it, easily getting up to the back of that in the slipstream. Just loses it out as he pulls out, trying to get alongside. Hoping his medium compound tyres after that virtual safety car period are going to be better, and indeed it does. Better like out. Car moving up to second place, going to be side by side heading through the third sector. Carbon's easily ahead of that Mercedes. Going to be vying his own way up to the front. He can hope to get all the grip advantage he can. It's going to be vital around this section of the circuit. Very far off track goes the Haas of Apex. The yellow sector 3 for one of the Alpines is going to be Rosenquist spinning it round. Multiple drive-throughs heading the way of Alpine, both drivers choosing to serve them as soon as they can. But it has not been the start that they want. Top 4 vying to be the closest cars on track. D75 just running a little bit away from Carbon, but he's starting to reel him back through this middle sector. All going to be dependent on how much grip you can exit through this corner. Jumping on board, you're also going to have the DRS assistance used within a second to the detection zone. Rear wing of that McLaren, we can see in the mirrors going wide open, trying to catch up anything he can to that Mercedes in front. One of the cars going spinning in the middle sector is going to be the Williams of Salmon. A little bit of locking up for Carbon heading into the final corner of the middle sector. as he is much closer and then drops much further back. The intervals playing a little bit of havoc through some of these tighter corners. While things are calming down just a little bit, why don't we have a look over to our standings as they are. The final round, Ozzy winning up at the top of the table. Uncatchable at this point in the race. One out in Canada. It's a 138.325 for D765, sitting a new fastest lap of the race. Second place currently sitting is Scarly42. However, D765 is trying all he can, and as it stands, he might just get enough points to try and take second place away from the Alpine driver. King, who is absent, is sat in fourth place. OJ in fifth, and Blah down in sixth. Not many drivers are with us for this final round on this game. A lot of them are moving on to the new one. Heading back into pit lane again is going to be Rosenquist. Number of drivers not struggling with any of the track limits, however, a lot of them have went into pit lane multiple times already. As Carbon's dropped just a little bit too far back from that leading Mercedes, he's lost the DRS, he's not going to be getting any assistance. Thunderbird's going to be catching all the way up this straight a little bit. Having a look to the inside, might be going for a bit of a lunge here. Indeed he does, all the way down to the inside. That's a very ambitious move. Carbon just going to be getting a little bit of grip. No, he doesn't, in fact. He can't replicate the same move he made a few laps ago. Mercedes duo back up into the 1-2 positions, and McLaren has to settle for third and fourth as it stands. There is still a long way to go in this race, though. Anything could happen. As unlikely as it is, another car could crash and another safety car could come out, and it could be vital if it comes out at the right point. Something these drivers need to be adept to is changing strategy on the fly, and need to make some of those vital decisions if the situations arise. Yellow flag in sector 3 for the Alpine of Scarlet, spinning it around again, overtaken by Pixels. Brought on the 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. The Red Bull driver just falling a little bit out of track limits, trying to chase the Haas of Apex in front. The gaps up at the front are also spreading out just a little bit. 7.5 tenths from D7 and Thunderbird, and it's 1.1 between Thunder and Carbon. Mercedes duo are free to run up at the front. The McLarens are just falling ever slightly too far back. The hard compound tyre slowly coming into its own at this stage of the race as a long running option. It's going to be dry all the way through. There's not going to be any rain or anything to change setups. Broughton getting ahead of Apex. DRS assistance, that all might change through the middle sector depending on which driver has the better tyres as it stands. We'll jump over to Apex. As Rosenquist a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings himself, and that was one of the McLaren's round of Harrison M, spinning it through the middle sector. Dropping down to 6th place. Could be a fight for a podium position for Broughton or Apex if they can catch up to Carbon. As Thunderbird a fastest lap of 1:37 as Harrison M's retired from the session, and that's going to bring up the full safety car. Jump over and see if we can find out how that happened from the McLaren driver of Harrison M. Jumping on board with Sam Baker in the Williams. Pixels, 5 seconds of penalty for speeding in pit lane. That McLaren's going to get cleared away just too quickly before we can see what happened to it. As the race gets neutralized and 10 cars remain. This is not what the Mercedes duo up front are going to be wanting to see. Their gap's going to come crumbling down. The Mercedes, or the McLaren, sorry, behind could just get the jump on them if Carbon tires are better as it stands. But of course, Broughton and Apex are going to be right there as well. Something on the audio end of everything. I'm presuming the stream is looking to be all fine. Not had any messages of any issues so far. While we're under the safety car, we'll bring up, once and always, the Formula Companion app. You can view all the results from all of Forza and all of F1. Every event we've hosted is on the app. The code is on the screen. They're available on every app store, whether you're on iOS, Android, or anything else. Feel free to get yourself signed up and take a look at anything that is on the app. Driver of the Day voting is also held over there, and inputs are, or voting is opened up once the race inputs are done. Mercedes, they're vying to try and get into pit lane, but deciding to get it last second. However, Carbon, Broughton, and Apex all deciding to go into pit lane. Alpine behind Scarlet, deciding to stay out. McLaren rejoins directly into the Haas. It'll be hard compound tyres for the Haas driver. Unsurprisingly, they have seemed to be very strong at this stage of the race. Take a look at the tyres, a number of them deciding to head on the hard, but a number of them also choosing the mediums. Indeed, no, Scarlet did head into pit lane. Graphic possibly playing a little bit of weirdness there. While we wait for the drivers to catch up, we'll take all the graphics off the screen. No need for any data when it's not going to be used during the safety car period. Three cars left to catch up, while possibly going green at the end of the next lap. Start of lap 10 should be back to green flag racing as you're disconnecting from the session. However, he was already out of the race as of a number of laps ago. Drivers' channels are also seeming very quiet as of today's race. Only one message being sent during the race time of Harrison M, saying his displeasures about the F122 platform, and he is thankful that he doesn't have to do another race for the FVC on this game. Does anyone ever in chat wants me to ride along with any driver currently in the race that is still running? Let me know and I'll jump over to them. Otherwise, we'll just be jumping around to see any of the battles. All cars are caught up. We should be getting the confirmation from race control very shortly that we're going to be going green at the end of this lap. Indeed, there we have it. Race control safety car in this lap. Jump back up to the front. The leader of D765 now has control over the field. Still a long way for the safety car to go to get back to pit lane. Very aggressive weaving from both the Mercedes drivers, trying to get that heat into the tyres to get as much of an advantage as they can. Safety car's in pit lane. It's now his entire ability to choose when he goes between now and the line. Indeed, he goes through the last corner. We are back to green flag racing for the final time. It's lap 10 of 28. Equal start throughout the grid. Jumping down now, it's going to be Scarlett and Apex heading side by side into turn 1. Scarlett getting immediately up past the Haas driver. Throughout the field, there was one more position change of, I believe, between Salmon and Rosenquist, or maybe Rosenquist and Pixels. Going to be going side by side through the S's, jumping on board with the Alpine of Rosenquist, who are going to be right on top of each other. But just understeering out of the corner goes the Alpine driver. A little bit of counter steer up through the top of the hill, trying anything they can to catch up. They've got to be careful that that Aston Martin is in the mirrors and could be trying to look at anything. Things are slowly just starting to spread out again, jumping up to the front now. Broden getting past Carbon into the ending of the final sector. Here goes Scarlett as well. A very ambitious dive and very late indeed for Carbon. Nearly pushing off the track. Here comes Apex as well. Might be having a look at the same stricken McLaren, just falling through places. Those medium comfort tyres, they haven't changed. Could just be falling down. Can't quite see the rim around them. Pixels getting past Rosenquist, and indeed looking like the hard comfort tyre actually for the McLaren. Just not able to light them up to the same degree as any of the other cars on the grid. As Rosenquist coming into issues of their own, spinning through the middle or the final sector. Not been an overly great race for Alpine as it stands. But up at the top, we're looking at Broughton trying to challenge against Thunderbird, heading around the outside of turn 1. It's just not going to work. You're never going to make it work that there. However, you could get the switch back very easily. You're going to be on the outside line here, but you're completely going to be ahead. Red Bull driver easily breezing past the Mercedes, heading into the S's now. His medium comfort tyres could be better through the section. It depends how much they are worn though. The hards on that Mercedes could just be in a better condition. They are getting very close to the back of that Red Bull. And having to lift off the throttle and even getting onto the brakes at some points. Much better run through the top of the hill. It's all going to come down to the cornering speed now and the exit speed. There's not going to be any DRS for a couple of laps after the safety car comes in, so he's going to be relying purely on the slipstream, and that Red Bull gets a much better launch out of the corner. Thunderbird heading over to the right hand side, trying to defend against Scarlett. But here she comes down the Alpine garage over to the right hand side of the track, trying to get past Thunderbird around the outside, heading into the final sector. Will it work? Will it not? Looking to be side by side. It's going to be about equal between these two drivers. Scarlett's going to have the inside corner for the next section. Purple middle sector for the Alpine driver, charging up the field up into third place. Her eyes are going to be firmly set on the Red Bull of Broughton ahead. Medium compounds for her working much better than the hards at this stage of the race, but they could come back and swing in the opposite direction. Anything is completely possible. As Salmon also spins it through the middle of the final sector. DRS gets re-enabled. Pixels move up into 8th place. On board Carbon, trying anything he can to catch up to the back of Thunderbird Mercedes. However, Thunderbird is trying to catch up to Scarlett in any means he can. He needs to be careful not to get into a battle with the car behind it, otherwise he's going to be losing time. Spinning at the final corner goes Salmon. Been a very poor race. And the virtual safety car is deployed for that driver. Into pit lane and retiring from the session, unsure of what has gone on there for the Williams driver. And broken front wing, so crashing into the pit entry. That's just going to neutralize the field again. Not going to bunch anyone up. But now it comes back, you've got to keep yourself under the delta to avoid getting a drive through. Car is coming back out onto track by the looks of it, or maybe it is paused again. As Rosenquist again, a drive-through penalty for speeding under virtual safety car. It is a horrible day for the Alpine driver. equal starts up at the top. Pixels a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. The front, Broughton is very close to the back of D75, of course. DRS does not get disabled under a virtual safety car, so the DRS is going to be wide open for the Red Bull driver. Here he comes, gaining all the way up into turn 1. He might be pulling out, possibly. Have a look. He does not. Thinks better of it into turn 1. You could cause a monumental accident there if you're not careful. This focus as well, Scarlett's focus is going to be on the bigger picture of the race, trying to get the 10th race win, carving a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. If I had to take a guess, I don't think that Scarlett is going to be fighting Broughton too much until they are both past D7 at this stage. But they need to make quick work of them, because otherwise those medium compound tyres are just going to fall apart and they're not going to be able to keep with the hards in terms of longevity. However, there is still a long way to go in this race. We are not even halfway through just yet. As Broughton heads into the lead, heading against D75, the DRS easily able, but D75 just gets a little bit late on the brakes, has to go into avoiding action. That's going to bring Scarlett right up to the back of him. A very ambitious launch on the inside in the middle sector. Up against the Mercedes, having to go off the track. Goes D75. Avoiding the sausage curve. That's a very ambitious move from Scarlett. Twice over, heading up to second place. Now she has to catch up to Broughton. Here comes D75, and in fact it was an illegal overtake. D75 getting back past the Alpine driver. Very courteous action of the Alpine there. Broughton now 137.685, fastest lap of the race. He's clear now to run away up the front, and that gap just might be a little too big in order to catch up. As Scarlett a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings through the S's of the track, and also Blah as well getting a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. A number of them starting to cascade for the drivers at the halfway point of this race. Only 3 drivers now without them. D765, Thunderbird and Apex, all running without penalties. DRS wide open for that Alpine driver, and it is a huge speed advantage against the Mercedes. The Alpine car obviously running a much lower downforce setup. Definitely dedicated to the straight line speed along this track than the Mercedes is, but that Mercedes could just catch up through the corners, could put the pressure on and cause Scarlett to spin. We have seen what happens when you overheat those rear tyres heading through this section of the circuit. Now goes the Red Bull round of Broughton. He's spun out of the lead. He's down, he's falling down the field. From first all the way down to 7th, that has brought this race back into it. Scarlett now leads from D765. That is a huge loss for the Red Bull driver. Yellow's in sector 3 as that Red Bull tries to get back going. It's going to be a devastating loss for him. All Scarlett needs to do now is just try and run away as best as she can from that Mercedes duo behind. They're going to be working together as much as they can. Thunderbird will be putting up the defense, and D765 will be free to attack. One of Scarlett's only hopes now is going to be that the Mercedes gets penalties. And if they keep doing that, keep cutting over corners a little bit too much, they will get them in due time. But Scarlett needs to not get any more herself, lest she fall down even further than the grid. They're all still very bunched up together after the recent safety car. All the way down to 6th place is within that 3-second interval if I had to take a guess. Again, let's take a look to leader indeed. First down to 5th is all within 3 seconds of each other. Mercedes just doesn't have the same straight line speed as that Alpine does. However, it all comes down in this section, all to the cornering speed, and see, hanging with it, even on the harder compound tyre, able to stick with that car through the corners. And we're getting knocked out there from the front wing of the Mercedes. Very ambitious on the turn in there for D75, however. The ambitious turning is just might be what you need to be able to catch up to that Alpine, especially as its straight line power is running away. Cars getting a little bit spread out apart from this top group of 4. Rodden will be kicking himself trying to catch up, and he indeed gets a 3-second penalty, up to 6 seconds for himself. Trying just a little too hard to get up to the field and get up to Pixels, but Pixels also runs out of track room and gets another 3-second penalty for himself. As Broughton gets past the Aston Martin of Pixels up at the top of the hill. Rosenquist a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. The drivers at the current bottom of the standings not faring well with track limits. Doing anything they can. It was a decent exit from D75, trying to catch up any way you can. Just nothing on the straight line speed of that Alpine as they approach into turn 1. Taking a look at the rear wing, we'll just see how much better that Mercedes is in the corners than the Alpine is. Catching up very easily. Got to be careful not to run over the inside curve too many times, and it's right on the back of the Alpine. Driver's channel is still very quiet. Bit of a quieter race for the end of the season. However, some definitely not complaining as it stands. All Mercedes needs to do is just keep within that 3-second gap, and they are guaranteed the 1-2 finish as it is. Taking a look from the rear wing of this Alpine as it just leaves the car behind. Broughton coming to bother in the middle of the final sector, falling back 10 to 8th place. The entirety of this first sector, the straight line please, it is the Alpine. Broughton and Rosenquist getting another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. It is going from bad to worse on the other side of the Alpine garage, but currently leading the way is Scarlett. Lap 18 of 28, there's going to be another decent number of laps to go, and if we are in for anything from this battle, they can keep up with each other. It should be exciting and tense all the way to the end, but Rosenquist spinning again through the final few corners on the circuit. Be a decent corner exit for the Mercedes of D75 this time. Trying to catch up any way you can, having looked to the inside, not going to be close enough. You're going to be mad if you want to dive there. Your brakes are just not powerful enough. As good as the cornering ability is, it is one thing to catch up and it's a completely different thing to try and get by. And Scarlett, as it stands, is just too far away, setting up just a too good of a defense whenever the Mercedes does get close. seen the track dominance of the Alpine versus the Mercedes from the rear wing camera of the leading car. Again, we can see just how close the Mercedes is getting, but just not close enough to be able to make anything stick. DRS wide open again for the Mercedes driver. You can catch as much as you want, but you cannot fight a way past. Mercedes off, Thunderbird heading to pit lane. Bring up the tyre detail to see what he changes onto. As Broughton is on the intermediate compound as well. Interesting strategy call from the Red Bull there. Thunderbird onto the medium compound tyres for the ending stages of this race. Jump over to the Red Bull quickly to confirm indeed it's on intermediate compound tyres. Not sure what is going on there, as Rosenquist gets up to 12 seconds worth of penalties. Back up to the front, that Mercedes is looming ever closer in the Alpine's mirrors, however it's just still not close enough. Carbon, however, might be putting an interesting dynamic into this battle if he can catch up to the back of this Mercedes. Jump on board with him, see if he can get any top speed advantage against the cars in front of him. But it doesn't look like he can, running a very similar setup to the Mercedes in front, not really gaining, not really losing. Both of the cars have DRS, locking up a little bit into the corner, very ambitious turn and cutting over the corners a little bit. Can't do that too many more times, otherwise you get yourself another 3-second penalty. Much different line from the McLaren through that multi-apex corner. Ultimately 3-second vertical multiple warnings as D765 now heading into pit lane. Possibly aiming to get an undercut against the leading Alpine driver. We'll take a look at the tyre detailing again onto medium compound tyres for D765. The tides could reverse for the ending stages of this race depending on how many tyres Scarlett has used and what compound she has available. Might be trying to go for a soft stint at the end. Try and consolidate that victory, but you never know. She needs to respond soon because those tyres are going to be falling apart for her and going to be losing time all the way through the circuit. I'd say if Broughton's Red Bull runs on those intermediates for much longer, they might slowly be turning into a set of slicks themselves. They're going to be very heavily blistering and graining in these conditions. That's even a thing that's simulated in this game. They are not built for a dry track. They do overheat very easily. They don't have any water flowing through them. Rounding the final few corners, Scarlett electing to head into pit lane. Carbon's going to be staying out and will take the lead of the race as is now. We'll just follow along and see this pit stop for the Alpine team. Needs to come out ahead of those Mercedes and they are very close. Got to be a quick stop and it's got to be a good one. And indeed onto the soft compound tyres for the end of the race for the Alpine driver. Thunderbird at 1:35.806. And by the looks of it, the Mercedes are going to get ahead of the Alpine. The DRS is going to be side by side against T765, very close there. She's going to light up those tyres now. They're going to be a bit colder than the race-worn mediums as they are, but it could just be everything now. Softs to the end. Got to get them lit up first, but they could be a good call. But she's just not making them work. They can't get up to temperature. They'll be defending for everything at this point. The race win is definitely one to go for here. Scarlett's going to have to be careful at the inside. Decent try could make a very ambitious lunge into the hairpin. He's out of it for now. I'm not sure if Scarlett's just close enough to get the DRS off the car in front. Indeed, she isn't. Going to have to be relying purely on that straight line speed. See a very laggy Mercedes of D765. Hopefully doesn't drop from the session anytime soon or causes any incident. Jump up to the current net leader of Thunderbird for just a moment, seeing those cars just spreading out a little bit. We'll jump up to the front now, see what the pit strategy is. Going to be staying out one more time for Carbon, the Haas of Apex, again also staying out as the Alfa Romeo Fabla again agrees. Staying out one more time round. Brought in a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, jumping back down to the current battle for net lead. Cars are spreading out somewhat slowly. Keep an eye on us as we jump down to 9th place. Battle between the Alpine driver on the hards and the Red Bull on the intermediates. Current closest cars on track. Keep a note of the time deltas between 4th, 5th and 6th. Take a look rearwards from the back of the Red Bull. See, the intermediate tyre has the grooves on them to clear out the rain, but that means you don't have as much traction on the surface. That Alpine is falling far back. Trying to catch it, keeping going in a straight line through the final ending corners of the circuit. Indeed, while the Inters are good at clearing out water and getting the best out of wet conditions, they are not built for the dries, as you just don't have the same corner grip. And of course, they're a soft compound as well, so they overheat very easily. But despite all the drawbacks, Broughton is somehow making them work for the final round of the Summer Series. Back over to the paddle for these positions. These cars are still getting very close, and in fact Rosenquist is getting very close out. We'll jump back to the battle for 8th place as it is. Wide open for the Alpine driver. It's going to be very effective. And this round goes Carbon in between the first and second sectors. It's going to be detrimental to his running. Heading up on Thunderbird, he's going to be he might get impeded just a little bit from the McLaren driver. That's going to be big for Skull trying to catch up. Indeed, he does. Carbon just a little bit too much in the way. Scarlett gets by the McLaren driver with ease. That's going to be huge for the current race lead. Of course, no DRS for Scarlett. Looking to be even just a potential bit of a legal overtake. They're going to be 3 wide down the back straight, heading into the corner. Jumping on board with the Alpine, looking to the left. Behind Carbon with a very ambitious dive heading into the inside. That's going to be possible even damage. Didn't see anything fly off, but that's looking to be fine for the Alpine. That's D765 ahead, and Carbon is just falling down the field even more. For what was once a blessing is turned into a nightmare for the Alpine driver. Brought in another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. now in control of the race is going to be Apex, and depending on what his tyre strategy is, he could be very much in for a win as it stands. He's already changed tyres and doesn't need to get off of those hards. He could easily go the final 3 and a bit laps to the end. With that 4.5 second gap in hand plus Blas penalty, and then the Mercedes having to work to get past the Alfa Romeo. We'll jump on board with Thunderbird as this develops. Diving very vigilantly down to the inside of the corner. Blas just going to have to hang it out wide and hope that his car is better in a straight line, even against the Mercedes that will have the DRS down the straight. Indeed, that Alfa Romeo is sticking right in the back and possibly gaining a little bit. Broughton, yet again, 3 second penalty for multiple warnings. And Blas, I think the right side of the track might be to look at anything around the outside. It's just not going to work. Higher speed Alfa Romeo is going to be losing it just a little bit through this sector. Be careful of the D75 behind. He's going to be trying to catch up whatever way he can, but he's got to be careful not to get too much into a battle with the car behind. But that is bad news for the leading Haas as it stands. That gap's already down to about 4.1 seconds in the span of a single sector. Indeed, here comes the Mercedes of D75 down the left hand side, easily breezing past that Alfa Romeo in a straight line. All cars outside of 1 second gap of each other. If there's anyone in chat that would like me to ride along with a certain driver, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be jumping around the field as as the battles develop. The gap coming down the way it is, Apex is going to be hanging on by a thread come the end of this race. It's going to be very close for the overall win between Haas and Mercedes. Scarlett 42, another 3 second penalty for multiple warnings. I'm getting a report that Pixels in the Aston Martin is currently on 80% tyre wear and could get a puncture by the end if he does not go into pit lane. Broughton, another 3 second penalty for multiple warnings, up to 24 seconds now. But over double the amount of penalty time to the nearest driver on track. Time gap up the front is coming down very quickly. Apex is going to be right at the edge of his seat as it comes down to the end. The Haas driver hasn't had the greatest of seasons. His teammate running away with the championship up at the top of the table, over 150 points scored and sealing the championship 2 rounds early. Apex has yet to get even a podium if I'm remembering correctly. But this could be his big break. It could be the final round. Going to be 1 second's worth of gap with 1 lap remaining of the race. Going to be even less than a second actually. It was a horrible exit for Apex out of the corner. Carbon coming to trouble through that corner, thankfully not causing any problems to come out. Half a second he's got to defend for his life around the end of the circuit. Jumping aboard with the Haas, looking behind. It could be his first big break of the season. But he has to make it stick the entire way. That Mercedes is flying through the corners compared to him. But as we all know, it is one thing to catch up and it's a completely different thing to make an overtake. Thunderbird having a look on the inside, just not being able to make it work. Having yet again taking another look at a dive, easily getting past. All going to come down to whatever switchback Apex can do, and indeed he gets a major one. Easily running away as well with a better exit through the corner. Going to have no DRS himself, but Thunderbird's going to have all of it try and come back. 4 tenths of a second gap. He's got a sector to go, but it is a very technical sector. And a very turn-heavy one. He's going to have everything against him here. Blocking up into the corner. Thunderbird having a very big dive to the outside corner. That Mercedes is going to be throwing everything at him. Dumping the battery, dumping the tyres. It does not matter. The end of the race is in sight. The end of the season is in sight. Running into the back. Possibly getting a bit of damage. Doesn't look like it for the Mercedes driver. He's going to have the outside line against the Haas driver. Heading through the multi-apex corner. It's going to be the worst line to have through this section. He's got only 2 chances left, and one of them's gone heading through turn 19. Apex could be on to the win of the race, heading through the final corner. Taking a look behind, it's going to be all down to the DRS, but it's not going to be close enough. The line is right there. Apex wins the final round of the FVC Summer Series. And it is 3 tenths of a second behind to Thunderbird. Mercedes just lose out on that race win, but they do score the required points to get over 1,000 total in the league era. 4th place will head to Blah, and 5th goes to Scarlet by 2.5 seconds. What was once a dream of a record-breaking 10th win has been delayed all the way to Season 6. If I am not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that Mercedes will take P2 in the Constructors' Championship, but the drivers will go the way of Scarlet as it stands. Carbon comes home in 6th place with no front wing. We'll head over to Pixel, spinning it round through the ending stages of this race. The Aston Martin driver on very heavily worn tyres, limping his way home. Very close over the sausage curves, but over the line for a P7 finish for the Aston Martin driver. 8th will go as it stands to Rosenquist. 5-second gap to Broughton and an extra 12 seconds in hand for penalties. As we head over to Broughton, who is currently stuck on the sausage curves at the end of the race. The intermediate tyres. Donuts for the Red Bull driver, or attempt at least. Heading over the line for the intermediates. And that is it. That was all that was sung for the Summer Series. 9 rounds later. Driver of the day by the game goes to Apex, a very deserved one. Voting will be open on the app very soon once the results are inputted. It's been a very heavy season of ups and downs, but the veteran has returned to the top step of the podium. Apex wins the United States Grand Prix, the final round of the 2023 Summer Series. Been a big break finally for a season where he's been overshadowed very heavily by his championship winning teammate. But he finally gets his own moment in the sun. Mercedes lock out 2nd and 3rd place, and they will get over the 1,000 point mark in the league era just before the end of the main series. Dramatic ending to the race, a 138 versus a 135 for the best laps between first and second, but Apex wins it for the Haas team. Second and third goes to the Mercedes duo of Thunderbird and D75, and fourth place, just off the podium once again, is Bly for 5169. Fifth place goes to Scarlett, the dreams of a 10th win, a record-breaking one in the league, just getting delayed for a couple of months. Carbon goes into 6th place, and 7th is FV Pixels. 8th goes to the second Alpine of Rosenquist, 9th to the Red Bull of Broaden, and 10th is Simon Baker. 11th and 12th will head to Harrison M2906 and Weepy Bag 9041 for the McLaren and Alfa Romeo teams.